listeners, and welcome back to Reading Light, the podcast show shining a light on different book topics, ideas, issues, all the whole stuff about reading books, that whole situation. So welcome back. Sorry that was a little clunky of an intro. I'm kind of losing my mojo, I feels like, or I'm rushing through this or something. I don't know. I need to relax a little bit, but welcome to today's episode. We are talking about June wrap-up. So what did I read in June? I love these. I love talking about what I read in a month. I love these little recaps too, just seeing it's so satisfying to just be able to see okay, this is what I did for the month and see your statistics and everything. So I will be diving into that. We will be looking at my Storygraph sort of statistics. Yeah, that's the word. Statistics. We'll be looking at different things like how many pages I read, how many hours, average rating, that whole thing. And it should be hopefully a little bit interesting. Maybe I hope to give people maybe some ideas on what to read, or maybe just give them something to listen to in the background, or you like recap videos as well. I should fair warning, this episode may be a little bit different than past episodes. I do anticipate these episodes on being perhaps a little bit shorter than other full-fledged discussion episodes. That's mainly because stuff like this, it can range. How much do I read in a month? If I'm reading really dense books, I may only get through 2 of them in a month. And then so it's a little less to discuss. It's just naturally going to be a shorter thing. So this one may be a little bit shorter too. I did read a few books, which I'll get into later, but I just want to prepare you that this could feel a little bit different if you're noticing any changes from episode to episode. I also am working on experimenting with more visual elements. So if you are watching this on YouTube, you will notice that the graphics may change from the last episodes. And I also will be putting the visuals that I'm referencing on the screen as, so people can look kind of with me, because the way Storygraph works is you download each month's graphic, and it gives you different graphics that give you details then about what you read for the month. So those will be on the screen. If you are watching on YouTube, you may already notice that. If you're not, if you're on Spotify, just letting you know, if you want more of a visual content or to follow along for this episode, you're definitely welcome to check me out on YouTube too. So just trying to do some little different approaches, try to rebrand, try to bring in maybe more visual elements as well, as much as I can. I'm still trying to keep this to be a podcast, but some things may lend well to have such graphics or additions in such a way. So that's a bit of housekeeping I just wanted to get through in preference for this whole episode here. But now I guess we will kind of just jump, right into it about what I read in June. So let me go on over to my Oh, before I do, I also forgot one housekeeping thing. I'm drinking an Olipop today. I'm drinking a peaches and cream Olipop. I guess they added this flavor. If any of my fellow Olipop fans remember, this was a Barbie collab, was the peaches and creams one. But I think they added it now as a normal flavor. I don't know if it's seasonal, but it is fantastic. I absolutely love the peaches and cream flavor. I was very excited to see this in a normal Olipop brand. So that is what I will be possibly sipping on throughout the episode. And I also think this episode might be a little less edited than my other ones. I try to keep this kind of conversational and stuff and not so much editing, but this one I do run on tighter deadlines when I have these wrap-ups, so it may be feel like it's pushed out and you may be getting a more raw feel for this. So I don't know, just those are some other housekeeping things I completely forgot. So see, this is going to be really fun when you listen to it. You're going to be you're bouncing all around. What the heck is going on? So, but anyways, we are now officially done, and we can officially get into my June 2025 wrap up. So as I said before, all this comes from Storygraph. That is the platform I use. I no longer use Goodreads. I don't know if Goodreads even gives you a monthly recap. I don't think they were doing it when I was using it. They might do it now, but I don't use them. So I'm using Storygraph, and this is where the information is coming from. And they kind of compile all your really cool data. They definitely give you, I think, more details on reading habits and your data associated with it. So it's really cool, and I think it has some fun things we can kind of go through. So in general, I'll go over briefly the overall facts, and then we'll dive more into the specific titles that I read and my readings and habits with it. So to start, I read 6 books in June, which is pretty good. That's, I think, good. I hope. I don't know. Maybe some people are reading like 100 books a month, but I read 6 books. I read over 1,600 pages, which that's actually something I did not know. I knew some of the books I read were a little thicker than other ones I had read, but I didn't know it accumulated to over 1,600 pages. So I spent 1.1 hours this month reading. I don't know what that means. I didn't listen to any audiobooks. No, I didn't listen to audiobooks. I did DNF one audiobook. So that is factored in here. So maybe that is where the 1.1 hours is coming from. I don't know if that's data based on how many pages you read and just kind of the average reading space. But 1.1 hours, which might have come, like I said, from that little audiobook, which is definitely represented if you see the graphic under my pages read versus minutes listened. So, and then my average rating was 4.5. That's pretty good. I tend to be, I guess you could see from my ratings that I tend to be pretty chill with my ratings. It takes a lot for me to really not like a book and to really give it up and to really put it out there that I don't like it. So 4.5, kind of not, super weird for me. We do have some of my highest rated reads, which were actually 3 comic books that I gave 5 stars. I think I gave other stuff 5 stars. They just kind of put, those were my highest ratings. Was out of the 6 books, half of them I gave 5 stars. So that's pretty cool. These were some comic books that I had read that were fantastic. So, I guess I shouldn't say all comic books. They were manga too. So that kind of, you get what I see. You can understand. We'll get more into it. My average book length was 273 pages. So that's okay. That's kind of, I guess, in the middle of what I might lean towards with reading and such. Average time to finish was 7 days. That's pretty relaxed. That makes sense. I'm not the fastest reader. It will take me about a week to read something depending on the length and everything. I used to be able to get through books much faster. I have not in my older age, but 100% of what I read was fiction. That is not a surprise. I am not the biggest nonfiction person, but I am working on it. You'll see more about that, I believe, in my quarterly goals episode, but I am working on it. So it's mainly fiction right now. Number of books per genre. So now we break it down, and it was mainly my top stuff was comics, fantasy, manga, mystery, and science fiction. Those were my standout genres read, which makes sense. Totally makes sense to me. As you can also see on the graph, if you are watching this or just have it up as a guide, the pages read definitely more than the minutes listened. It's a little bit of a minutes listened thing there. I'm very bad at, on Storygraph, you can, as you're going, you can track. Yeah, well, obviously you can track, but you can put in what page you're at and update it day by day once you finish it. I used to do that pretty religiously back years ago at this point, but then I kind of gave up. I felt weird doing it, but I think maybe I will start trying to update my Storygraph more substantially with how far in a book I am, just to make this data a little bit more comprehensive and understandable, because it does look a little funky when you're looking at the pages read and the days and everything. So, and then the final little bit about just these hardcore facts here is 17% of what I read was digital and 83% was print. That makes absolute sense. That it was, I think, mainly print. Or if sometimes when I'm reading these books, I forget to change the edition to digital. So print and digital format might be kind of comparable on the Storygraph, or just the facts about them and stuff. It may be the same number of pages or it's represented in such a way. So I do sometimes forget to change that. So that could be a little bit inaccurate. But because it really shows a favor for print, which isn't always the case, I do borrow so much for like from the libraries and stuff, and that all typically comes from my tablet and Kindle. So that might be a little inaccurate, but I will have to keep that in mind for next month or this month, I guess now, because it's July 2nd when I'm recording this. So I'll have to keep that in mind, that what I am doing in my own keeping records in this way, helping the system, inputting stuff, could be hindering some of these results. So it's a good idea, though. I think it still is a great representation of what I read for this month, and some great facts and everything. So let's dive in then to what I actually read and my ratings for it. So I've now switched to a different graphic, and as you can probably see on YouTube, Spotify, it is just the 6 books, like the book covers, and then it says a little rating that I have on there. Like I said before, I rated everything pretty high. It's all 5.0s or 4.0s, which is ratings out of 5, so 5 stars, 4 stars. The first book I read this month was called The Boy by Tammy Hogue. Hogue? I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm so sorry if you're listening to this and I didn't pronounce your name correctly, but that's the first book I read this year, or this month. Sorry. This is not a whole year recap. Could you imagine? I'm very excited to do that, though. That'll probably be quite a few books. But so the first one I read this month was it was called The Boy, and it was a crime mystery about the murder of a little boy that kind of unravels this whole thing happening in this little Louisiana town. It follows a married couple who are detectives. I think they're in like 2 kind of separate departments, but they're married detectives, and they are mainly working this case, and it really unravels, and it's a lot going on, I will say. It was a lot packed into one book. The twists and turns felt like a lot. It was interesting, and I absolutely love like this crime procedural sort of like form to mystery book, so I really liked it for that aspect. It was a total random pickup. I got this from a little library because my internet went out after a really bad storm, and so I had nothing to read. I couldn't get anything from like the library because I was on my Kindle and stuff, and I was away from my actual library that I frequent and stuff, so I went to the little library that my neighbor had set up on their property, and I just grabbed something at random. It was The Boy. It was a nice mystery. It was good. I gave it 4 stars, so pretty dang good. And then after I was finished with it, I ended up returning that back to the little library, and I got another book that was in there. Apparently someone had just completely gave up like a bunch of their murder mystery books. That's kind of what it appeared like in this little thing of the little library. I remember thinking I didn't love this author's style, so I was like, okay, well, let me see if there's other mysteries, and I'll go get one from the little library again, because it was just, I wanted another one. I wanted another mystery. I was really vibing with it. So I go and I pick this other one at random, not even realizing it's the same author. So, however, I did enjoy this one probably a little bit more, probably just as much. I gave it another 4 stars. It was called The Ninth Girl, and it was by Tammy Hogue. And it is about a girl who is murdered, and they think she is part of the serial killer who has been active for a while. And then it turns out, no, it's more of it's a whole family kind of issue, but there is still a conclusion then to the serial killer as well within it. So this one did feel like a little bit less kind of twists and turns, but it's still, she really knows how to like pack a lot in her books. I will say you feel it. You feel the elements, the characters. It feels like quite a bit when you're reading this woman's mysteries, at least from these 2. I don't know. I haven't read anything else from her. I don't know if I want to, I'll be honest. Maybe, but at least from these ones, you feel like you got a lot. It's never boring. I will say that. There is never like a dull moment with it. So it really does work in that aspect of keeping you turning the page, figuring out what's going on here and everything. So I did end up keeping The Ninth Girl from the little library. I don't know if I want to return it and switch it out for anything else, or do I want to give another book back and return it and stuff, but it wasn't bad. It was a pretty fun read for a mystery and stuff. Serious, and it definitely was sad and a little, obviously gruesome. It was pretty gruesome. It opens pretty gruesomely, but I like the characters too. It was a little bit different. It wasn't the same detectives from the first book from this woman I'd read. It was a whole new set of characters in a different like city too and everything. So it was interesting. It was good. Like I said, gave it 4 stars. Next, here is where we move into some comic books I had read. I had just finished the most recent season of Doctor Who. I know it took me forever to finish it. Sorry. And I was kind of on that Doctor Who kick. I won't say any spoilers in case you have not caught up or you're trying to watch it or whatever, but I will just say something that happens in that series, or at least season, this past season, made me itch for some Doctor Who content, specifically from a specific doctor. You can guess, I'm being kind of vague about it, but it all influenced me to check out the Doctor Who comics, which I was familiar with. I remember going to the comic book store maybe last year or the year before. No, last year it would have probably been. And seeing comics for the most recent Doctor. And I thought that was quite interesting. And then when I've gone to like conventions and stuff, I've also found comics for Doctor Who, which I was not super familiar with prior to recently. So I figured, let me go see what is available kind of at my library and stuff. And I ended up reading 2 in this series. I don't know how long the series is. I think it's like 6 volumes maybe for this one, but I figured I'd check them out, see what's going on. And so that's kind of how we get our next entries here, where I read two of the Doctor Who comics, and they follow the 13th Doctor. I don't want to get that wrong, because I'm getting to a point where all these doctors in my head are like, whoa, and then you had like the 14th kind of blip in, and that's still, okay. The 13th Doctor, and it follows adventures with her and her companions. I read the first 2. Well, technically, I think the first one I read was technically number 0. So it was kind of like an interlude, or not an interlude, but like a prologue maybe to the whole series that would be coming out. So I read that one, and it was kind of like an overview of from 1 to 12 and then to 13. And then the second one I read in the second series followed her on an adventure. These are pretty short volumes, I will say. It was probably only, I think they were like 100 pages each, which, if you know anything about comics and volumes, they can get pretty long. So it was kind of a little shocking to have a little shorter of it, but it was very fun, and it felt like a good Doctor Who episode. I felt like they captured the character pretty well in kind of both of them, and the characters of the past Doctors too, in I think number 0. I keep wanting to call it the first one, but I think it is number 0, and then I read the first one. It kind of gives a nice characterization, I felt, of them. So I checked those out, liked them. I liked the number 0 a little bit more. As you can see, I gave that one 5 stars, and then the first volume, I gave 4 stars, thought it was good. I didn't end up continuing with them yet, because all of a sudden I had a craving for romance. So all of a sudden I wanted to, move. I wanted to shift. I wanted to move on. I didn't know if I wanted to read a romance novel, however. So I dove back into mangas. And let me pull up so I get the title right. So I shifted in my time to move to manga, specifically romance-focused mangas. And so I read 2, which I think are the only 2 available at my library right now. I think there is a third one, but I read 2 of these. It's called Trapped by His Love, The Duke's Unexpected Bride. I read volume 1 and volume 2. These really had me kicking and giggling my feet. Both were 5 stars, as you could see. And I devoured like these. I was finished them within I had to pace myself actually, because I was so scared I was finishing them so fast. I was like, you gotta, girl, slow down. Slow down and savor them, because I don't think so far my library has the third one, which I believe there is. I will actually look that up right now and double check that, because I feel like maybe that's, yeah, okay, there is a third one. Oh, okay, it hasn't came out yet. Wow. A couple of Google searches when I finished the other one, because at the time I was like, oh my god, just give me it. Okay, it looks like the third one, volume 3, has not even came out yet. It is slated for July 8th, 2025. I don't know if that is in this country or it's a different country. I don't know. I do struggle with reading manga sometimes, because I feel like I'm kind of going all over the place, or I don't fully grasp it or anything, and how to read and all this stuff. So I stick to typically what my library has, and I know from there, like, okay, I can do that. So, and I will just go along there. So very excited for that. I'll have to keep my eye out, and hopefully my library gets it in hopefully quickly. I don't know though. But so it was very good. It was so cute, so sweet. It is a little of course it's going to be unrealistic. I feel like that, a lot of romances are and such. But it's super fun. I had so much fun reading them. Like I said, I had to pace myself, because I was like, I'm gonna consume these so quickly, and it's just so fun and cute and sweet. And the main lead, she's so adorable. The main guy is just so like obsessed with her and stuff, and there's like a reason for it and stuff. And I like the reasoning behind it and everything, because at first when you're reading it, you're like, whoa, why is he coming on so strong? What the hell is this? But it looks like we're going to get more backstory and stuff towards the end of volume 2, or I think at the end of volume 2, if I remember correctly. It really gives more context for it, and you're like, oh, okay, this is so sweet. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. I really had a lot of fun with that. So that's what I read for this month. I feel like that was like I said, 6 books. I'm sure a lot of people may come at me for the heavy amount of like comics and that sort of thing. I know there's always debates on that reading and stuff, which is ridiculous. A book's a book, and consume what you want. It's either way. I got a whole other thoughts, I guess, about that I could put in a different episode and everything. But I felt like this was fun. This was I felt like towards the end there, I really vamped up my love for consuming and reading and romance and sweet things like that and stuff. So it's kind of where I'm going. Hoping to have a good July. Hoping to see what I can do in July. We'll see where I'm heading towards. All that sort of jazz. So if I had to pick a favorite read, though, I think maybe the mangas I read towards the end were my favorite. I did enjoy the mystery. I liked my little mystery stunt. That was fun, and I definitely am becoming more open to reading mysteries. I used to not really get them or be for them. I'm definitely more open to those and leaning more towards that and stuff, and I'm happy to do all that. But I do think the mangas at the end were my favorite for this month. Now, do I have any goals for July? I'm kind of following a little script here in my goals for July. I don't know if I really have any goals. I hate to kind of set that up, especially when I have my quarterly goals, which you'll see in later an episode. No really goals for July. I think we're gonna just consume what we want, not be worried about what we're reading, how fast we're reading it, take it chill, have a fun little hobby. Probably will read more manga. That is definitely probably on the block there, but also some regular old romance novels into. I'm definitely diving into those. And I'm also thinking about doing a reread. I saw the trailer for The Running Man, and I'm thinking I gotta whip that out for a reread. I think that movie comes out in November, so I got a little bit of time. Wow, we're gonna really have a Stephen King fall between that and The Long Walk. So I'm thinking maybe that will be a reread for July, a nice little summer. That's my beach read. such a chill beach read, The Running Man. But the trailer made me thinking, and the trailer was a little more chaotic. The vibes that I get from the Running Man and versus the vibes that were given in the trailer was a little bit of disconnect. So I'm like, maybe if I go back with this different lens and we consume it this way, let's see if I forgot some things, because it's been so long since I've read it. It's got to have been about 6 years at this point. So no, maybe more like 5, maybe 5. So it's been a bit. So that, you know what, we'll call that for my goal for July, is hopefully revisiting that. I have to see if I still own it, or did I donate it or something, because sometimes I have a hard time keeping track of what books are in and out of my collection sometimes. So there's my goals for July. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you liked listening to this. Like I said, this was a shorter episode. Not by a ton, but it was a little bit of a shorter episode, kind of just going through my June wrap-up. What did I read? What did I like? What didn't I like? There was nothing here that was like super appalling, which is fantastic. That, you know, I think I do know what I like and what I pick. And I'm also always looking for more recommendations. So we're going to try to be leaning towards more recommendations. What are the girlies online reading? What's going on there? So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to hear from you. What did your June look like? What is your July going to look like? How does this compare to other months? How does it compare to last year? What's going on? Remember, you can always comment, hit me up, whatever. Would love to hear. Would love to hear your own goals and everything, or what did your Storygraph charts look like, or Goodreads stuff too, that whole thing and everything. So thank you so much for listening. Sorry, again, it is a little bit of shorter content, but I still think hopefully it was a little bit interesting, and I hope you like my more visual elements and stuff on YouTube. And yeah, so I thank you for spending about this 30 minutes or so with me, and I hope you have a wonderful week stuff. I know we have when you're listening to this, or at least when this is uploaded, it is a holiday weekend. It'll be on the holiday actually when this is published. Wow, I forgot my own schedule. So happy holiday. Happy 4th of July, if that is what your cup of tea is this year and everything. So thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Have a beautiful weekend, month, year, and I will see you all in the next one. Keep reading on.